The simplicity of the gospel.
Moses took the rod from before the Lord as the Lord commanded him. Next verse, verse 10. And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock. That's the obedient part. And he said unto them, this is the disobedient part. God didn't tell him to say this. Hear now, you rebels. Must we? Who's the we? No, it's not you. It's God providing the water. So he's messing up here. But you're going to see that when God utters his word, he doesn't change. Yeah? He does not alter it. Psalm 89 and 34 says, my covenant will I not break, neither will I alter the thing that is gone out of my mouth. So the Lord had already spoken. Hear now, you rebels. Must we fetch water of this rock? Who is we? It has nothing at all to do with you and Aaron. You are all God has asked you to do is speak to a rock and say, rock. Not think about it. Rock. Give forth water. That's all he had to do. But look what he's going to do next. He's going to take his rod. Look what he's going to do next verse. And Moses lifted up his hand. And with his rod, he smote the rock twice. That's a very bad thing he did, because the rock is a type of Jesus. And when you smite the rock twice, you're really, as it were, smiting Jesus. He was only going to be crucified and smitten one time, not twice. But he was not even supposed to smite the rock. But the water came out abundantly. The water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beasts also. Of course, he paid for what he did. But God opened his mouth and gave the children an uncommon experience. They were going through the wilderness. There was no water supply, no BWA there. They didn't have enough rain to give them water. They needed water. What do you need so badly? What is an uncommon thing? I mean, I look back at my life and I see some uncommon things that happened in my life. I left school, started a job, teaching at Christ Church, boys' school up the hill here. No certificates. Huh? That's unusual. Left there, went to the Barclays Bank, no certificates. Did a few as I went along. Left Barclays Bank, went to Royal Bank, no certificates to speak of. Left Royal Bank, went to the firm of chartered accountants, and I moved all the way up to managing director of concrete products. But by then I had gone some certificates. But I see how God worked in an uncommon and unusual way for me. And I mention that because there are those of you who are sitting back and saying, well, I can't get to university because I don't have the qualifications. Don't you have somebody in high places? Don't you have somebody in high places? Don't you have a father in high places that you could talk to? Well, I'm a Ghanaian, so I can't get in the job. And shut up. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. I had a Guyanese guy here who used to help me play the organ here. He had the same problem. He couldn't get any work because he didn't have a national insurance number to give, so people didn't want to employ him. And he came to me and he said to me, I want you to help me to get a national insurance. I said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. But you know, anything happens at election time. And it was election time at that time. It was probably 1986 or something. And we filled out and applied for his card. And there's a little box that you had to tick which says Barbadian or non-national. I left that out. Not made that PLA case. Huh? I left that out, sent in the form, and in 2 weeks or so, the card came. Man, God will make a way. God will do some unusual and uncommon things, because the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. I'm trying to get you tonight to get away from the things that you're accustomed to hearing from the pulpit all the time. Oh, we got to heal your body. We got to provide you a job. Let's go into some things that you need in your body or in your business or whatever. Let's talk about God giving you a business, something uncommon. You don't have any money. You don't have any collateral. You don't have anything. How are you going to start a business? But you go into one of those places that offer money, maybe not in the bank, but I see some advertised on television, whatever. And all of a sudden you get $5,000 or $6,000 that you could start a nail business. You could start a hair business. You can do. We are God's children, and God is never guilty of child neglect. God will let you get a job so that you could get money, so that you could survive, you and your children. So there's no excuse. Begin to ask God for some unusual things. Where am I going to get this money? Ask God for some uncommon things. asked God for some unheard of things. Who ever heard about that before? A good example is Elijah in 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 11. Elijah with a supernatural transportation system. God didn't even let him go via the grave. Supernatural transportation. You ever heard about anybody being escorted to heaven? Let's put it that way. Huh? He was just caught up. That is unheard of. Don't let people tell you God can't do this or God wouldn't do that. Believe God for some things that are unheard of. Pastor, you ever hear anybody do that yet? You ever hear anybody do that? You ever hear anybody put Aki and Cuckoo? You ever hear anything about that? God wants to look at this. It came to pass as they still went on and talked, there's Elijah and Elisha, they're walking, that there appeared a chariot of fire. That's unheard of. A chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder, and Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. We got to go a different way, unless there's a rapture. If there's a rapture, we'll be changed and we'll be caught up. Apart from that, we're all going to die and go to the grave. Not so. Unusual. Unheard of. What is in your life that you want God to do for you that perhaps no man to change your husband? You ever heard God change anybody? But he doing thing that can happen is that somebody could kill him. You ever hear a man like that get changed? You ever hear a woman like that change it? No. God will do some things that are unheard of. While I'm talking, I want you to be thinking, I want you to be thinking in your mind. Personalize this now. What unusual thing do I want from God? And I needed it a long time ago, but I thought it was too hard for God. What uncommon thing? Uncommon thing. What unheard of thing? Listen, in 1 Kings chapter 17, verses 14 to 16. You ever hear, we're talking about unheard of things. You ever heard about meal and oil increasing just like that? This woman had bills to pay. Her husband had died, and she didn't know what to do. And let's go back a convenient place from verse 14 and read when she came to the man of God. She came to the man of God. Some of you need to come to the man of God. That's unheard of for you. You ever hear me talk anything to him? You ever hear me talk any business to him? That's unheard of. If you do the unheard of thing, you might be surprised to see what happened. If you read Kings and Chronicles, you'll see the great things that happened to people as they came to the man of God. Me? Not me. I'll never discuss it, neither he. But arise, get thee to Zarephath. This is Elijah being sent. I have commanded a widow woman there to sustain thee. I'm at the point now where I'm talking about unheard of things. I talk about unusual things. I talk about uncommon things. Now I'm talking about unheard of things. Because, Pastor, you ever heard anything about that? It is not too hard for God. With God, all things are possible. And so he arose and went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, behold, a widow woman was there gathering 2 sticks. And he called unto her and he said, ooh, fetch me, bring me, I pray thee, a little water in the vessel that I may drink. Just a little bit of water. And as she was going to fetch it, he called her and said, bring me, I pray thee, bring me a little piece of bread when you're coming back. Just a slice of sandwich, loaf will be good enough. And she said, as the Lord liveth, as the Lord thy God liveth, I don't have a cake. We're talking about unheard of things. We're talking about uncommon things. We're talking about unusual things. I don't have a cake in the house. I have a little handful of meal and in a barrel, and I have a little bit of oil in a bottle, and I'm going to gather 2 sticks, and I'm going to go and cook this little bit of oil in this meal for me and my son. We're going to eat it, and we're going to die. And look at this bald-faced preacher in the next verse. Look at him. And Elijah said unto her, don't worry. Go and do as you say, but make me my cake first. Make my cake first and bring it to me. And after that, make for you and your son. So important, man of God is. If she had decided, sorry for you. If she had decided, like some of you will certainly decide, make it Pastor Murrell, my cake first, or my child hungry. You and your child would have died. And I would have been alive because God had already planned to provide for me. Are you listening to me? Are you listening to me? But thus saith the Lord, the barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil, until the day that the Lord send rain upon the earth. And you know full well that that is how this woman was blessed. That was unheard of. Who has ever seen a bottle of oil multiply? Eh? That could happen to you. Well, I ain't got nothing home to eat. I got a little rice, but I ain't got any meat. Have you ever heard that before? You have enough, you got chicken wing. God can multiply the chicken wing and make it as big as an eagle's wing. And that wing could feed I'm talking about some, y'all laughing. I'm talking about some unusual things. I want you to leave here tonight and start limiting God. Take God out of the box. And don't worry about whether anybody else decides they're going to believe God. You are going to believe God for yourself. You are the one who's going to be in pain down at the hospital if you don't believe God. No, you're the one. You're the one who's going to come down with cancer and all kind of stuff if you don't believe. Do not put anything to, look, our text, Genesis 18:14 says, is anything too hard for the Lord? And the answer to that is no. I'm showing you some unusual and some uncommon and some unheard of things here in the Bible. You never heard about them before. Look at this. Let me give you some more. In 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 17 to 24, the widow's son was raised from the dead. Nobody was ever raised from the dead before. How did the mother know that this could happen? How did Elijah, I think it was Elijah, know that you could bring back somebody from the dead? This was unheard of. And it came to pass after these things that the woman of the house, the mistress of the house, the child fell sick, and his sickness was so severe that there was no breath left in him. He died. Let's see what this woman's going to do. She's going to do something that's unheard of. Read the Bible. You'll never find anybody before this that was raised from the dead. This uncommon, this unusual, this unheard of. It came to pass after these things, verse 18 says that the child died, and she said unto Elijah, what have I to do with thee, thou man of God, that you've come to call my sin to remembrance? And you know, when things happen like that, you get so depressed, you talk nonsense. But then she go on, and Elijah's going to talk back to her. He said unto her, give me your son. What's he going to do? The child is dead. But something unusual, something unheard of is going to happen. It could happen for you. It could happen for you. Kayleen could go home tonight to hear those little girls saying, hi, mommy. Hi, mommy. She says, good night. She says, I can hear you. Wouldn't you love to hear that? Well, that could happen. God made the ears. Who made the ears? Who made the eyes? Who made it? Nothing is too hard for God. That is what I'm expecting. I'm expecting that one of these nights, Sherry will come up here and talk, give me some scripture and all that. We'll have her on tape that we can send her all around the world that look what God has done for her. Let us take God out of the box. God can do anything. Stop mourning and groaning and griping and complaining. And even if it is not written in the word of God, you can know that God can do it. Listen, give me your child. And he took him out of her bosom and carried him up to the loft where he abode and laid him upon his bed. This is the dead child. What are you carrying up there for? Nothing like that ever happened before. Why are you doing that? So look at the next verse. And he cried unto the Lord and said, oh Lord my God, this is what you can do. God is your father. Oh Lord my God, hast thou brought evil upon this widow with whom I sojourned by slaying her son? And he stretched himself upon the child 3 times. For what? You ever heard anything about that? Why are you doing that? Because he knew that with God all things are possible. That nothing is too hard for God. I want to bypass that verse which says with God all things are possible and go to this one that we're using tonight, which says that nothing is too hard for God. So he stretched himself upon the child 3 times, and he cried unto the Lord and said, oh Lord my God, I pray thee, let this child's soul come unto him again. People around him, naysayers with a laugh. What foolishness you talking? This child is dead. Huh? All the people before them went to the grave. Huh? All the others, Cain and Abel and all them died and went to the grave. Will you talk about let soul come back? Are you willing tonight, brethren, to put God to the test? Are you willing to trust God for something that seems hard to you, but which is really nothing to God? And the Lord heard the voice of Elijah, and the soul of the child came into him, and he revived. That's unheard of. I could talk to you about 1 Kings chapter 17 and 18. Those are two chapters, so we're not going to go there. But there's a drought in the land because Elijah said so. Elijah said there's not going to be any rain until I say so, not the Lord. Speak something over your children. Don't wait until the horse gets out the stable. Don't wait till they end up in jail. We have two 17-year-olds from this church right now on bail. Bail should have been 4 weeks. The bail now has gone into nearly a year. You're going to wait till your child get up there when you could speak some things over them. The other people in the house don't want you to speak them because they think that you, whatever. You want the children to be old fogies. You don't want the children to run away. You want the children to stay in there. Well, I'm going to get 2 bullets in their head then. You're going to do that? No. You go contrary to what they think and pray for your child. Uncommon prayers. Lord, just cause this child to hibernate in this house and don't want going away other than work and school. And God is able to do the unusual. I cannot imagine. In fact, I wouldn't go. But I could not imagine somebody calling me and saying to me, come see one of your children or grandchildren. They just got shot dead. I really wouldn't go. I can't take on that. I'm too old for that now. But could you imagine how you feel about that? When before that time comes, you could ask God to do something that's uncommon, something unusual. Yeah, they want to go the way of the world because that's how it is. But the way of the world, you know what the end of that is. I'm not saying everybody in Barbados will get shot. I'm not saying everybody in Barbados will get hooked on drugs. But how do you know that your child would not? Let's go down that road now. Let's stop being selfish and only talking about healing for our bodies. And let's stop only talking about miracles. And let's go into some of these deeper stuff. I could tell you when the rain came again, this is unusual. A man just say, rain come and rain come. That's unusual. I could tell you fire coming down from heaven. 2 Kings chapter 1, verses 10 to 12. Second, fire coming down from heaven. And captains are consumed by the fire of heaven. That never happened before. That's unusual. Why are you waiting to find out if somebody did it? You're just as bad as me. And the COVID vaccines started to come online. Charnel went and get her. She had to go, or she must have been the first person in Barbados to get hers. Charnel there. But I sit back and I waited. I want to see how it's going to happen to her. I waited for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I wait and I looking. Every time she comes here, I waited and I looking. I wait and I looking. And she said, man, it's okay, Pastor. You go get yours. Nothing wrong. You go. I still looking. I still wait. And after a little while, maybe a couple of months, why do we have to wait to see if it's going to work for somebody else? You need something from God. Go to God for it. Are you listening to me? The doctor says there's a terminal disease. You don't get over this. That's what the doctor says. He may be right from his education. But nothing is too hard for God. Nothing is too hard for God. Or you have a disease that cannot be reversed. You have whatever, Alzheimer's or whatever. Go ask God for the unusual, for the uncommon, for the unheard of. Well, let's talk about the unlikely. This is unlikely to happen. John chapter 11. A man is dead. Not only is he dead, but he begins to decompose and his body has a stench because they don't have the freezers like we have to keep those bodies. And this man begins to decompose. This is unlikely that he's going to come back to life. Well, I can understand the boy that just died maybe a day and Elijah raised him. I could understand that. Rigor mortis probably didn't even set in yet. I don't know. But this is something that's unlikely. How are you going to raise a man that begins to decompose? But let's in John chapter 11, begin at verse 38. Let's see what happened. Believe God for something that's unlikely. After all these years, your marriage has been going further and further down. And you swear by heaven and earth that there's no turning around for this. No, believe God for the unlikely. Next year, this time I want you to tell me, Pastor Murrell, boy, I hear that message you preached on the 7th of August, but I just listened to it, just went through one ear and hope through the next. But then my husband came home and my wife came home, and then they began to be so nice. Huh? This was hardly likely to happen. This was very unlikely like this. Jesus, therefore, groaning within himself, came to the grave, and it was a cave, and a stone lay by it. Nothing is too hard for God. Did he not make the first man? Can't he repair, restore, revive, resurrect this one here? Look, he's going to do it. Jesus said, take away the stone. Whatever stone is before in your mind, or whatever that is blocking your miracle, that's blocking you from reaching out to God for the unlikely, reaching out to God for the uncommon, reaching out to God for the unusual, reaching out to God for the unheard of, whatever is blocking. Sometimes it's your friends. You need to get rid of your friends. You should hear a message that we preached on last Thursday. You should be here, because some people said to me that, perhaps it's not good to say when we are praying for each other that you should stay away from the jokers. Don't waste time. And I showed you 6 verses in the Bible where the Lord said there's some people that you should stay away from. From such turn away, the Bible said, from such. So it's biblical for me to put in your mind that when you see people come in church and then going anywhere, they're joking all the time, and the doctor just told you that you got terminal cancer, you want them to waste time praying for you? No. The Bible said there's some that you should turn away from. The Bible said, have no association with the unfruitful works of darkness. Somebody think that, I'm not saying you don't love them, that you won't go to lunch with them, whatever. But when it comes to the serious matters, God has given us the right to turn away from some people in church. I usually call them jokers because they come for years and they end up the same way. Somehow you seem not to be able to detect them. But Jesus said, take away the stone. What do you have to take away? What do you have to take away? Self, arrogance, pride, the know-it-all attitude. What do you have to take away? The holier than thou attitude. What stone do you have to take away to see this unheard of thing come to pass? What do you have to take away? Martha, the sister of him that was dead, said unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he hath been dead 4 days. 4 days. Jesus said unto her, did I not say unto you that if you would believe, you will see the glory of God? The same thing will happen to you individually or this church corporately. If we would believe, we would see the glory of God. And look what happened in the next verse. Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. He wants a healing. He wants a resurrection, but he's offering thanks, the prayer of thanksgiving. And I know that thou hearest me always, but because of the people that stood by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. And look what happened in the next verse. And when he had thus spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. I'm sure everybody around him thought that he was some kind of fool. Just like the things that you're asking God for that nobody ever heard about, you did something like that, they're going to think that you are a fool as well. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot in grave clothes, and his face was bound with a napkin. I just want to take a little piece of that verse and turn it around. You see how he was bound hand and foot? Some of you have Jesus bound the same way. He can't do anything for you. You ain't believing. You're not trusting. The next message that came from that is loose him and let him go. Loose God in the church. Loose him in your life. Loose him. Remove the unnecessary boundaries. I'm not saying the free for all where people just take the service and do whatever they want. I'm not talking about that. You gotta always remember that you are not the only person in church. You have your own needs, but there are other people who have other needs as well. Sometimes we get selfish and we want the service go where we want and all that kind of stuff. You see, the pastor is different. The pastor has to be holistic. Whereas you looking after your own self, I got to be considered the fact that this person is broke, this person is this, you probably don't know. So if we have to change a song or two to minister to somebody, you might think, well, you're binding up the service. You have to shut up, we're binding up the service and walk in the spirit, and you don't understand what's really going on. Like sometimes I come and you're not singing, so I got to push you and bully you to sing. No, you don't want that. We have come to a place where you have to do some things for yourself. There must come a time when you have to put the controls of the airplane in the fellow who just qualified. There comes a time when you must put the scalpel, what y'all call the knife, in the hands of the new doctor. You can't be there all the time. Similarly in church, you will never grow if we always tell you, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. Sing, lift up your voice or whatever. I was even listening to a message similar to this evening, where the preacher, these fellas that went to Harvard, is saying that there are some things in church that the pastor should not be even explaining to you after all this time. When you have a dictionary and you have a computer, you got to do something for yourself. You see, as soon as you don't sing and as soon as you don't do this, we want you to start climbing the poles and pulling down the lights and all that. Because you're moving doesn't mean that you're advancing. A rocking chair is always moving, but it ain't going anywhere. And don't think that noise is power. No, not all of that. So if we are flowing in the spirit, you don't have to push you to do anything. Don't have to push you. Don't have to bully you. Just have to. That does not mean that praise the worship leader doesn't say anything. Stay with your mouth shut. I'm not saying that. I just want you to get me in the spirit. Huh? But of course, we're in the habit of seeing what happened downtown, and we think it should happen at the Pegwell Community Church. And to change that and go into something that's unusual or uncommon or unheard of, you will think, well, he's quenching the spirit now. Well, I'm not boasting or anything. I have better common sense, and I have more of the Spirit of God to know that the Bible said we should not boast. But I'm just telling you for your benefit that one of the most prosperous churches in Barbados today is the Pegwell Community Church. Well run, not because of me, but because God uses me to do. There's some church that go like Animal Farm. Everybody do what I hear it when people come here. Everybody do it. Do whatever they want. You have too many preachers, so that you have 5 preachers and all of them have 5 different things they're talking about. The pastor done a series on holiness, and then the next one come and talk about death. And then on Thursday, the next one come and talk about heaven. And the pastor says, we are dealing with holiness. And you have so many different preachers that you confuse the church. The Anglican only have one preacher. And the Methodist and the Roman Catholic and those only have one. And if that pastor could preach to those people all this time, I don't see why a Pentecostal pastor that knows what he's doing wouldn't get in the pulpit and do what God has called him to do and direct the church and lead the church where God is leading it. It might seem unusual, might seem unheard of, might be uncommon, it might be unlikely, but nothing is too hard for God. I wanted next time, maybe on Thursday, I don't know, to talk to you about things in the Bible that are unsophisticated. Ask God to do some things that are unsophisticated. For example, it's beyond Jesus to take a whip and go into church and beat people and skin over the table. Is that sophisticated? You understand the story I'm talking about? When the Lord upturned the tables of the money changers, well, that was out of character for him. But he did it. God could do some things out of character for you too. I was going to talk to you about things that are unprofessional. Unprofessional. It will seem to be not professional what Jesus did, but he did it nonetheless for the benefit of the people. But most of all, I want to talk to you about things that are unprecedented. Unprecedented. The word unprecedented means things that were never done or known before. Those are some of the things that we got to get in the church. We can't be following people all the time. We got to get some of those unprecedented things. But Pastor, how come that you preach first before you do the praise and worship? I thought you would do the praise and worship and let the people get time to arrive. You know what the arrival time is? 10 o'clock in the morning and 6:30 in the evening. So if you follow what God says, then we can preach anytime. So sometimes in these services, God do some things that are unprecedented. They have no precedence for this. It was never done before. Like for example, are you going to go and put Dagon, a false god, side of the Ark of the Covenant of Almighty God? That's unprecedented. Who ever heard about that? You know, when they went back the next morning, what happened? Dagon had fallen on his face. And they were presumptuous enough to put back up this statue next door to the Ark of Covenant. When they went back the next day, not only was he fallen on his face, his hands were broken off, head broken off, the whole thing. That's unprecedented. We ain't got a precedent for that. We never heard of anybody fall before a false god, I mean before the Ark of the Covenant like that. And God will do something unprecedented so that people ask you, how come you got that done? How come? How come I've been waiting at National Housing for 25 years to get a house. How come you get one and you just applied last week? Unprecedented. Can we ask God for those kind of stuff? I was going to talk to you about all those kind of things. Maybe you'll continue. And I want to talk to you about some things that are unforgettable. I'll draw some things to your attention that God did that you will never, ever forget. For example, like on the day of Pentecost. Who would ever forget the day of Pentecost? 2,000 years later, we are still talking about it. We are going to talk about some things that are uncomplicated. There was no complications in cursing the fig tree. The Lord just said, just curse the fig tree en passant, as the French would say, while he's walking along. Huh? He didn't have to go and get anybody to come and dig up the tree or cut the tree like we did and put in some turpentine in it. And no complicated. Nothing. He just cursed the fig tree and that was it. God can curse your warts and your cancer and your fibroids and all that kind of stuff. The problem that you're having with your kidneys and you're having with your bladder and the incontinency, so that maybe God is talking to somebody about that, being incontinent, and I'm not talking sexually, no, I'm talking about the inability to hold water. All those things, just like God cursed the fig tree, God could just handle that. That's easy matters to the Lord. Let's go back. Genesis 18:14. Let's see this, the first part, and we're going to stand. And we're just going to believe God. We don't have to turn this thing into a ritual and anoint you every night and pray for you every night and call you to the altar every time we come to church. We don't want things to be a ritual. We want it to come from the heart. So let's all stand.
The simplicity of the gospel.